I want to come to something else you said. This is where you talk about Jews, women, and blacks. Let's just take a listen.
They're always coming up with, no, it's not the Jews. No, it's not women. No, it's not blacks. It's actually really complicated. No, it fucking isn't at all. Jews are running society. Women need to shut the fuck up. Blacks need to be imprisoned for the most part. And we would live in paradise. It's that simple.
Okay.
Love it.
Would you like to clarify what you meant there?
That's all true. That's 100% true. Everything I said in that clip is true.
Including...
Yeah, I love it. Nick Fuentes is not, closing off anything he said. He's standing 10 toes down. That's what I love to see. Because even when Andrew Tate came on Piers Morgan a few years ago, Andrew Tate tried to backtrack a little bit to make himself seem more mainstream. But for the most part, he kind of stood on his ground. But Nick is nah. One of my favorite things Nick ever said, I think, online, which when he was like, "Can a nigga breathe? Can a nigga breathe?" God damn, that's one of the funniest things I've ever heard in my life. But it's the way he said, he's like, "Can a nigga breathe?" With that Chicago accent.
That blacks need to be imprisoned for the most part.
Yeah. Yes.
But
yeah, because 6% of the population commits 50% of the crime. I mean, there's definitely a problem there, and I think the nuclear family, not being a big component to America anymore is also another reason why, a lot of black people are in these predicaments. Is it all black people? Of course not. I never said that, but it's definitely an issue because a lot of people tend to, when it comes to black people, multiple baby moms, go and get the milk, never come back, not being in the family, all that stuff. Times were better when the nuclear family was a thing, and it's not just black people, but black people have definitely inspired it for sure. Look at freaking the artists nowadays with these Megan Thee Stallions and whatnot, trying to say F men, this, be independent, all this stuff, and it's been a bad image, and it's transitioned into a lot of white women having multiple baby dads too, and especially Latino women. My goodness, it's become bad. And black people obviously have a big influence in our culture, obviously. So Nick is not wrong in this at all.
All of them?
No, for the most part.
What does the most part mean? What percentage of American blacks would you like to see in prison?
50% of the...
whatever the percentages of the murderers. I think it's 1 in 20 black men will commit a murder in their lifetime. So maybe let's say that 5%.
Oh, so you're talking about black people who murder people?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
But you didn't say that. You just said blacks need to be imprisoned for the most part.
That's a general
statement. Clarify that you were talking about black murderers.
Right. No, you're right. That's a good addition to that. That's a great point.
You think it's funny or?
Yeah, I do. I think it's hilarious. I think it's totally true.
Do you think a black American would find it funny? You think that,
yes,
that blacks should be imprisoned for the most part?
Blacks are my biggest fans. I get high fives all the time. They say, Nick Fuentes, I love your show. They agree with me. And you want to know why? Here's the difference. Black people are the most victimized by other black people. You think black people want to live in the hood and the ghetto and get shot all the time? That's what happens in the south side of Chicago.
And every single black person, don't lie, every time you become rich and successful, where do you move to? The white neighborhoods. Why? Because it is safer. They're not going to be loud. They're not going to be playing any music. And I would do the same thing. When my family lived in Pennsylvania, we lived in a white neighborhood. And mind you, the white neighborhood was a little bit loud. I know, weird, right? But I would rather that than the Dominicans and the blasting their freaking hip hop music and having their loud cars do zoom, 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 do all that crap, bro. Miss me.
Chicago, you should come here. I'll take you there. We could go to Garfield Park.
My son went to Chicago University for a year, actually, several years ago.
Yeah, that's a bubble. That's a bubble. You think you're in Chicago and Hyde Park? You don't know Chicago. Go a little bit west, see what it's like over there. And I'll tell you, black people agree with me because they're tired of it too. And maybe not most of them, but a lot of them agree with what I say about that because they know how it is. That's why the first thing they do when they make a little bit of money is they go and leave to another neighborhood.
Okay, so what
White
was,
neighborhood.
just remind me again, the percentage of black men who commit murder in America. What was the percentage you gave me?
It's 1 in 20. 1 in 20.
It's 1 in 100.
No, it's 1 in 20.
No. Less than 1 in 100 black US men commit murder. That's the.
Well, Nick is trying to be nice. I think he meant to, I think he's talking about like, because again, black men are most of the time the ones that commit the violent crimes, including murder, rape, and all that stuff. So let's see what happens here.
Most up-to-date crime statistics in America.
That's not true. I've seen other statistics. They say 1 in 20 will eventually commit a murder.
So your rate means that you're saying that 5 times as many black men commit murder as the official crime statistics say.
Yeah, there's a report, I believe, on X by Data Hazard. I'll have to go and double check that for you. But yes, there's some pretty shocking evidence that says that it's far more alarming than you would think.
Okay, but you would accept that the official crime statistics are 1 in 100, or you wouldn't accept that statistic?
I don't know. I don't have it in front of me, but I've seen other evidence. Like I said, Data Hazard on X, I believe, produced a report about a year ago. It said 1 in 20. But I mean, whether it's 1 in 20 or 1 in 100, that's a lot of people, Piers. I mean,
sure,
this is
a lot of white
problem.
people commit murder too. Well, they do, don't they?
Okay, but it's about proportionality. I mean, white people are 65% of the population. Blacks are 13%. Mm-hmm. And I think anybody would tell you that more black people proportionally commit violent crime than white people. And people vote with their feet. People would rather pay a much higher property tax.
Most mass shootings.
What's with the interruptions?
I'm sorry.
Thank you. I appreciate that. You know, you look at in Chicago, in New York.
And it's funny. I knew Piers was going to go in that route. But both the mass shootings and actually, my family and I had this conversation a couple of weeks ago where both of the mass shootings, like with Charlie Kirk, or even when Trump and the assassination attempts on him, all that stuff, we're all white people, right? But I'm like, okay, just because that is the one that goes mainstream does not mean that is the majority of the murders and assassinations. Just because becomes public does not mean that that's like, you know, the majority of the things. It just happens to be the most extra thing that goes mainstream because everyone, white person killed this person, it goes viral or news headline. Like what happened with that girl that was in Charlotte with the black guy. That's a you know, like that was a very, you know, the fact that I'm be honest, the fact that actually went as like popular and viral as it did, is kind of interesting. But they notice how they always make the black how you call it, the black murders go very, very, the Black Lives Matter just use it like no tomorrow. Whatever, it's Trayvon Martin, where it was what was the one for Fruitvale Station? Oscar Grant, obviously George Floyd, obviously, and the black kid that got the black kid that stabbed the kid in high school or middle school. All the Black Lives Matter were all rallying behind him. It's crazy. Sorry.
These neighborhoods are so stratified. People would rather pay a high tax rate. They'd rather pay a much higher property value to live in a less diverse, less black neighborhood because they don't want to live around the violence. And I think that when you look at even on the public transit, the subway, the blue line, you know, people don't want to go there because they know who occupies and menaces the public transit. It is these people like Daniel Penny had to deal with. It's people like Irina Zarutska had to deal with. And that's just the uncomfortable reality.
You've also said you don't want to live near black people. Let's take a listen to this clip.
I don't either.
I'm a new generation of white person. I'm not living around blacks. Sorry. You know, I want white kids, and I don't want my white kids bringing home black people to marry. It's racial for me. And call me racist. Oh, very Christian of you. I don't give a fuck.
I mean, it couldn't be clearer.
I love Nick's face. Nick's face like, yeah. America. I love it. You can't come on, guys. You can't help but laugh. This is comedy. I love it. If you don't find this funny, then I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what to tell you, man.
Really, unless you want to say that's another of your jokes, but you're basically saying, yeah, I'm a racist, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
You're fine with saying you're a racist?
We're
Totally.
all racist. Yes.
I think everybody's racist. I think everybody, if we're being honest.
Listen, we're all racist. Yes, we are all racist. We are. Listen, even the people who are on the left, who say, I'm not racist. Y'all are racist too. Y'all throw jabs all the time at people like Myron Gaines and call him a Uncle Tom, or this hillbilly guy, or this Aunt Jemima, or this Dora the Explorer looking having, like, y'all throw. It's the same equivalent. At least people on the right, at least more direct about it. Everyone's racist. Let's be all the way 1,000. Bruh, people in other countries, bruh, you want to live in Japan? There are hella racists over there too, man. Come on.
Honest is racist. I think everybody, the only people that aren't racist or pretend not to be are white people to their detriment.
Yep.
Everybody else is racist.
But earlier in the interview, you got aggrieved at the idea that your father was a racist. You wanted to make emphatically
because
sure
my father's.
He's not.
Because my father doesn't share my same views on that.
So he's the exception to everyone's a racist.
Well, everybody's a little bit racist. You're right. So maybe everybody. The difference is you're attacking my father. He could get fired from his job.
I'm not attacking your father.
You are.
No, I'm not. I don't know your father. And to be clear, I have no knowledge about him at all. Well,
then let's leave him out of it. Let's leave him out of it if you don't know him.
Hang on, Nick. You put that story into the public domain on your show. I'm simply reminding you of what you told everybody, millions of people, about your father. If you now want to retract it, fine. If you want to say it was a joke, which is what your position was earlier, fine. But I'm allowed to put to you things you've said publicly. That's not unfair. That's not me targeting your father. You put that story about him out there.
You know what you're doing. You know what you're doing.
I'm asking you about a pretty shocking anecdote, which to me looked like you were saying your father made decisions about where you as a family would eat based on skin color of people who worked at these places. If you say, or use them, if you say that is not what you meant, that's fine. You can respond any way you like. But the idea I can't ask you about it without you saying I'm attacking your father is ridiculous.
Well, you are, and you know what you're doing. And there's a political culture in America where if you have the wrong views, you get fired from your job. And my father has a job. And if you go on here and say, you charge him with racism or something, and I'm put in a position where I don't look like I'm sticking to my guns if I don't say my father's a racist, you're putting him in jeopardy, and he's not here to defend himself or explain his views. And it's very low, and I think you know exactly what you're doing, and people can see what you're doing. I'll defend my views, and I think that, so let's leave him out of it. Let's just not talk about my father, because my father isn't here. I'm here.
Okay, well,
I'll
then do you accept that you shouldn't
talk? I'll defend the anecdote.
Listen, that's fine. But then do you accept you shouldn't talk about your father on your show? And you shouldn't tell...
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
So it's fine for you to put a story out there which would make most people who listened to that story or watched it at the time on your show conclude that he was racist. It's fine for you to do that. But if I then ask you about it, I'm the one who's being unfair, and I've crossed off.
You're being unfair, Piers, because it's not coming from your... The question shouldn't be about his father. It's about whether that affected Nick's perspective on his ideals, and his ideology, his perspective on life. Like, the question shouldn't be, well, your father said this, and so, like, is that how you became? No, it should be, what gave you that perspective? Was it your upbringing? Was it someone in your family? That's more awareness, and Nick would be honest about it, right? But you continue to bring up his father in the conversation for no reason. Like, leave the man in peace. He's not there to defend himself or explain his point of view. Like, again, Nick is his own person. He has the right to believe whatever he wants to, say whatever he wants to. Whether he came from racist parents or not, it's none of your business, and it's none of your concern or anyone's concern. So come on now. Like, come on, Piers. You know what you're doing.
The line. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, you're being
fine.
malicious.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. Listen, people are watching this live. They can draw their own conclusions. about whether what I just
And they
did.
will.
Yeah, and I'm sure afterwards, by the way, you'll say he ambushed me with your own words. With your own words.
That's a little presumptuous. I'm not going to say it's an ambush, but I think that's a low blow. And I think you know what you're doing, and that's fine. You're a tabloid journalist. I expected that. I don't think it's an ambush because I knew it would be like this. And people will see what you're doing, and I think they'll say it's low. But as far as you want to talk about racism,
I do.
Let's talk about racism.
Okay,
Let's leave my dad out of it.
Look, you've admitted you're a racist, correct?
Yes, 100%.
Okay.
Own it.
Okay, that's fine. You're perfectly entitled in a free democratic society to stare down the barrel of his camera and tell me you're a racist. People can judge you accordingly. Many people who have assumed that you're a racist will now have heard it from your own lips. That's fine.
There you go.
That's the point. The point of this interview is to go over the things you've said, which have led people to reach conclusions about you, and to ascertain whether those conclusions are fair and reasonable or not. That's it. So I want to play you another clip. This is what you talk about why white people are justified in being racist. Let's take a listen to this.
First, white people are every single bit justified in being racist. Every single bit justified, to the extent that that means going out of your way to avoid black people when you see them.
You stand by that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So white people should go out of their way to avoid black people when they see them.
Of course.
Absolutely. They would be wise.
Why?
Because it's a lose-lose proposition. If you're Irina Zarutska and you don't walk the other way, you get stabbed to death and you die. If you're somebody else and you walk on the subway and you stand near a black person or something, maybe it's fine. It's a lose-lose proposition. So no, I think that white people have been beaten into submission, that we're afraid to tell the truth about it. And the truth is that when you go into these major cities like New York or Chicago, I believe she was in North Carolina, there is a menace, which is young, black, adolescent men. They're extremely violent. And we have been told that we have to pretend like they are every other person. We have to be colorblind to that. And we're supposed to go and be in the midst of all this danger. And I think that at this point, it's gotten out of control. You look at the BLM movement, they said that the reason that black people, are violent, or the reason there's crime, is because of police brutality.
Yep.
Or redlining, or all these other things. They said we need to get rid of the police. We need to defund them.
Yeah.
And a lot of cities did. A lot of cities like Chicago, for example, the police changed the rules of engagement. They don't chase them. It's not a felony if you steal a certain amount of merchandise. They won't chase them on foot. And now the city's totally up for grabs. And now whether you're in the Gold Coast or whether you're on the Mag Mile or you're in the worst neighborhood.
Pattern recognition. That's the word I'm looking for. Thank God. Jesus Christ. Pattern recognition is the term that is the thing that would have saved the little, I forget how to pronounce her name, but the woman that was in the Charlotte stabbing. Pattern recognition would have told her not to sit right in front of him. And she had a Black Lives Matter poster in the back of her room, by the way. If she would have just paid attention to some pattern recognition and sat away from that guy, she would still be alive. And I'll be honest, and I don't care who gets offended by this. Pattern recognition is what saved a lot of my adulthood. My childhood, I should say. That whole thing where if you see a black guy wearing black Nike Air Force Ones, wearing a hoodie, whatever, I'm walking across the street, and anyone who gets offended by that, boo-hoo, sorry, I don't care, because that's just the reality of life. I'm not gonna take that chance. There's a difference between a nigga and a black man. And if you can't see the difference, then I don't want to tell you. I don't want to tell you, man. And shout out to Nick for standing 10 toes down. And I could tell Piers Morgan is infuriated by everything he's saying. Because Piers is liberal, and he wants to believe that all black men are the same. When we're not. They're not. And I have black friends too. And black people were the ones that bullied me the most in high school. And white people too. White people too. I don't trust white people either. Don't get me wrong. White people are the ones that called me a monkey, called me a gorilla back in high school and stuff. So I've dealt with racism all my life, from all forms of life. You know, I don't judge people off of their skin color. I judge them off of their character and how they are. And are there some people from the hood that grew up and got out of that and didn't let it embrace them? Yes, and those are the people that I respect the most and I appreciate, because I could give the excuse I'm Hispanic. I could be a deadbeat. I could be having sex with multiple women and got a woman pregnant at 17 years old. But I didn't do that. I chose not to, and I decided not to live that life, because I know that I'm someone that if I ever have a child, I want to be in their life. I want to embrace them and have a family, and get married. But a lot of these Dominicans and Puerto Ricans want to be, living that F boy life, and I'm not a part of that. Dang, I just realized bro, we're only 32 minutes in. Jesus Christ, sorry.
Neighborhoods in the city, you might get shot, you might get mugged, someone might run up on you. And I tell my followers, it is better to be perceived as racist or racist and walk the other way and maybe keep your life than to say, I'm a good anti-racist. I don't mind that this person's making me uncomfortable. Maybe he's looking a little froggy. I'm going to sit down because I'm a good person, and get stabbed, mugged, whatever. And by the way, this is a strategy. They call it the friendly stranger. There's a crew of them. They do this in Chicago. They stand outside bars, black people. They approach strangers. It's a robbery crew, and they pretend to be a friendly stranger, and then they mug them.
Yep.
And
In
stupid white people say, oh, hi, yeah, nice to meet you. They grin, they laugh, they put up with the nonsense, and then they get mugged, or worse. Sometimes they get executed. And so as a white person,
how do you feel about mass shootings at school?
I think they're bad.
Who do you think commits the vast majority of the mass shootings?
I'm sure it's white people.
Right. So how do you feel about that?
I think that white people do more antisocial violence. I think black people participate in more gang violence. I think that's the difference.
What's the difference to the victims?
What?
There's no difference to the victim, but it's a different kind of crime, and it's a different proportion also. Do you know what percentage of white people are school shooters?
I know that the vast majority of mass shootings in schools in America this century were perpetrated by young white men.
Yes.
And what proportion
and how much? That's exactly my freaking point. What, Piers, what percentage of whites commit the mass shootings? You'd be surprised. Even though that's because it's the headlines and because it's mainstream, does not mean it's the majority of white people that be doing that. Oh my God, I'm getting annoyed. Let's see, Piers. I'm pretty sure Nick is about to explain like the percentage that actually is, because again, the mass shootings are majority of white people, yes, but let's see what the actual percentage of overall that are Caucasian in America are committing those acts. Let's see.
I'm curious whether your advice would be to people who have kids in these schools.
Is my mic working?
Should they avoid white people at school? Should people with the kids at school avoid young white men at school?
No.
Okay.
Do you know what per capita means? Do you know proportionality? There are more black people proportionally that engage in violent crime or are involved in gangs, especially in these major cities, than there are white people that are school shooters compared to the entire white population. And everybody understands that.
Two-thirds of mass shootings at school perpetrated by white people.
But what proportion of white men commit school shootings? That's the question.
I've just told you. It's 60 or 65% of school shootings by white people.
You're telling me what proportion of school shootings are committed by white people. I'm saying what proportion of white people have committed school shootings.
Exactly.
Are you playing dumb, or are you just not that smart?
What difference does that make to the children lying dead on the ground?
What?
See, now you want to jump on the victims. The difference is you're asking, would you fear white people or black people? And that's the difference. The difference is
what I'm saying to you is by your logic, if we now have agreed that the vast majority of mass shootings in schools are committed by white people and predominantly young white men, then presumably your advice would be to avoid young white men because they perpetrate these massacres. But it won't be because...
Bro, that's the... Oh my God, Piers. I hope Nick Fuentes mentions the statistic of the 6% of... Okay, if 13% of blacks, right? But 6% are black African Americans. they commit 50% of the crime, right? That's a large proportion to show that a small minority are committing most of the violence. Then what would the equivalent of that be? Like, if the majority of America are Caucasians, what percentage of them are committing the mass shootings? Is it 2%? Probably, I guarantee it's less than the 6% of the African Americans that are committing the crimes. I guarantee it. That's an important distinction, and that's a disingenuous point of view that Piers Morgan is coming from right now. And shout out to Nick for making this live.
Because they're white, right?
So are you playing dumb or are you actually dumb?
Maybe
it's
I'm
about
dumb.
proportionality.
Maybe I'm dumb.
You are because you're, well, I don't think you are dumb. I think you're smart actually, but you're deliberately avoiding per capita. And everybody knows that's the difference. What proportion of white men are school shooters? It's probably 0.00001%. What proportion of black men have committed violent crimes? It's probably like 5%. I don't know what it is off the top of my head, but it's very high. And I would add to that, even as it concerns schools, why do you think parents pay a super high property tax to live in a school district where there's white people? Because they know that if they go to the black school, it's going to be the Bloods and the Crips. It's going to be gangs. It's going to be, you talk about school shootings. Nobody talks about all the school shootings that are committed by gangbangers in and around the school and all the other violence that's associated with that. I mean, these schools in the south side of Chicago, it's just not livable.
I have an answer for you, Nick. So the proportion of the population who carry out mass shootings is actually the same for black and white.
For white people, the proportion of
the proportion
again,
of the population.
Are you hearing it? No.
So I think the trouble with your statistics is a lot of them don't bear much scrutiny. We have a bunch of fact checkers checking all this in real time.
No. He's not asking Piers. You're pretending to play dumb for a reason. You're not answering the question intentionally. He's not asking if the majority, what percentage of the shootings are white people. He's asking what the percentage of white people commit the mass shootings in America. That is the question he's asking, not what percentage of the shootings are done by, like, overall. He's not asking that question, because yes, white people do the majority of the shootings. That's not the argument here. The proportion is how much of the white population is committing those acts, which is probably, like I said, I believe less than 1%. It just happened. And also, again, people don't want to admit this too, but again, those massive shootings are the ones that go mainstream as well. That's what's on CNN and Fox News. That's what the thing. Oh, another white person that committed a crime. Let's make sure that goes main headline. Come on, bro. Miss me with that.
Tendency to just come out with a lot of old baloney. And when you say,
okay,
well, it's true. And when you're confronted with reality, you don't like it.
What's the figure? What proportion of white people have committed school shootings? With white people as the denominator and white people that have committed school shootings as the numerator, what's that percentage?
For both black and whites, the proportion of the population who carry out mass shootings generally is about the same.
No. Tell me the number, and then
the only focus.
Why is he combining both? Notice how he's combining both? That's not the question, Chris. Yo, Piers, you're dumb, bro.
Receive your attention.
Just when I just gave you praise for the Jubilee debate, now you want to go over here and not be doing. They're the same. You're saying that 5% of white people commit mass shootings in America, bruh. And that also, by the way, because there's a lot of shootings that go on in the last couple of years, right? But if you have to count on your fingers how many mass shootings happen in these schools and all these things that happen a year, it's not going to be 5% of the population of white people that be committing those crimes. Because that number doesn't make any type of sense. Let's be honest. Come on.
Is the black shootings, the black crime. You don't want to live around black people. You want to avoid black people. You don't want interracial marriages or relationships that may produce black people. And yet, when I point out to you that there are many parts of crime in America where actually there's a majority of white people that perpetrate them, you don't care. You don't have any interest in that. It doesn't exercise your mind. Maybe because you don't.
See, no one's buying this. This
kids.
argument lost. No one is buying this. Everybody understands per capita, and people can even see what you race ahead and say, well, we're comparing the proportion of white and black school shooters. I said, no, compare the proportion of school shooters that are white versus violent criminals that are black, because that was the basis of the monologue, is that you're very likely, if you encounter black people or a young black man in the city, that you're going to be the victim of a violent crime, of a robbery, a mugging, a car theft, a carjacking, or a murder. That's the difference, and it's about proportionality. And everybody sees past that because we all live in reality. You want to talk about product of your environment. People that live in New York, Chicago, LA, we live in reality. We live in this environment, and we see what it's like. And the threat, the danger, in terms of probability, it's not even comparable. And I would say this to your point. If you're in a high school and truly, if you see a white person who looks like a little autistic, he's got the SSRI stare and he reaches for a backpack, people joke and say, run. Yep. Similarly, if you see a jalopy pulling up
and you know what's the sad part too? White people get victimized and like they get called out like, oh, you're like white people who look a little weird be called Ted Bundy, saying you're a Jeffrey Dahmer, whatever the case is, but no one goes into their defense at all. But God forbid a black person, and you say he looks like Diddy, offense, that's horrible. Even though yes, Kai Cenat does look like Diddy when he was younger, then they say that's offensive, you're racist, and all this and that. Notice the difference between the two? Notice the difference. And this is not coming from, I'm not like a white supporter or white advocate. I'm just saying that there's a definite distinguish between the two races and how they take things. And I feel bad because a lot of white people have to take it, because otherwise if they speak up, then they are racist or whatever, which is why that woman, remember that woman that was calling that little black guy the N-word, and how she kind of like seemed just over it. And the black fatigue is definitely in my opinion, at its highest, because now people like Dr. Umar and Tariq Nasheed want to come out and talk about black reparations. Like, bruh, where's that going to go? The tax dollars of the average American. This is a real problem in America right now, and I'm glad Nick Fuentes is speaking facts right now. And he's just, and again, a lot of white people feel this way too. They just don't want to say it because they don't want to get canceled, get their jobs, get fired from their jobs and whatnot. But this is absolutely true. It's true. And I lived in New York. Well, not that much, but every time I visit New York, there are certain types of crowds that, again, what's the word I used earlier? Pattern recognition. You just see certain people, and there's people of all races are weird, but they come off weird and you just want to avoid them. But there's pattern recognition is a real thing. You have to understand your environment, your surroundings, and just be aware of certain things.
With a bunch of black people in it and they got their pants around the ankles, you're going to run also. And I'm saying the same thing. The difference is the latter happens much more often. It's much more common. In Chicago, there's like 10,000 carjackings and car thefts every day. It's in the thousands. It happens all the time. How many mass shootings committed by autistic SSRI white people? I don't even know. I mean, it's probably in the single digits in the last decade in this city. That's the difference, and everybody knows that. But you're really just trying to carry water for liberal ideology. It's an ideological position.
No, I'm really not. I can absolutely say, yes, there is way too much black on black crime, for example, involving guns in Chicago.
And black on white also.
Yes, but there is way too much gun violence in Chicago, right? I mean, it's
in America.
it's indisputable. I've got no problem saying that. The difference is I don't then lead myself into a thought process where I have to avoid all black people in case they shoot me.
Never said to avoid all black people.
You've already conceded that you are a racist. So when people hear you then say, I don't want to be living anywhere near black people, they already have heard
It's a
you say,
general
I'm a
statement,
racist.
bro.
So they assume you're doing that because of people's skin color. I don't think you would probably dispute that, right?
Well, you're separating two different things. The monologue, when I said I don't want to live around black people, that was after Irina Zarutska got shot. And it's true. I mean, they are a largely in this city, in Chicago, the South Side, the West Side, huge criminal population. And I don't want to live anywhere near it. And I want to live in a white neighborhood. I think that that's extremely desirable. And I think even black people do.
Nick, you're perfectly entitled to that view. But when you have obviously prefaced all this by saying, I am a racist, unashamedly, then people will assume that all your thought processes about all of these issues are driven by an aversion to people based on their skin color.
And people who think that way are low IQ and don't watch Nick Fuentes if you get offended by things like that. Obviously, that's a general statement, and that's a lot of people. If you're someone that gets offended by things like that and doesn't see the context of certain things that he's saying, then I like, come on, bro. Like, let's be honest. And look at Nick is friends with Kanye and like Myron. He has a large diverse of friends that he's friends with, man. Didn't he? What's it called? He hung out with someone recently. I forgot who it was. Yeah, he was hanging out with like Aiden and Cuffham and that little stream that they had. It was actually kind of, I hate to say this word, but it was kind of cute because it was like, oh, Nick Fuentes, like he's a kid, like he's not a kid, but he's an adult, but he could have a fun side too. And it was just boys being boys hanging out. So like Nick is like, he's cool peeps, man. I would love to hang out with him and interview him on the channel too.
Which is the purest personification of racism.
Well, it's not an aversion. I would say it's the opposite.
Hold on, let me go back a little bit.
Aversion to people based on their skin color, which is the purest personification of racism.
Well, it's not an aversion. I would say it's the opposite. I like my own people. My own people are familiar to me, and I think that's true across the board. I think that
for all races,
people seek out.
That is fair. That is, I mean, I feel like that's pretty fair. If I grew up Hispanic with a Hispanic household, and I tend to be more comfortable around more Hispanic people, and not because I'm racist against whites or blacks. It's just there's certain things where coming from a Hispanic household, I could relate to another Hispanic woman, which is why I usually tend to date Latina women. That's my type, and there's nothing wrong with having that. Just like how Nick Fuentes has a thing for white girls, there's nothing wrong with that either. And I think that most people who are like in a little clique tend to feel more comfortable with people within their own race, and there is nothing wrong with that. And we all see all the time. Whenever we go to music festivals and like that, usually the white people hang out with white people, black people hang out with black people, and there's, again, people tend to align with what they're more comfortable with because they could kind of relate to their upbringings and have similar traits, backgrounds, all that stuff. So there's nothing wrong with that at all.
Other people that are like themselves, and every other group does this, whether it's blacks, Hispanics, Asians. You know, I get a lot of attacks when I talk about that I'm against interracial marriage. And what's funny is that every other group is against interracial or interethnic marriage. Jews,
but you're the
Chinese,
you're the product
people,
of an interracial marriage.
Yeah, I mean, that's debatable.
Not
Let's
really.
say for the sake of
Not
argument,
really.
sure.
No, you're the product of an interracial marriage, and your father is part Mexican. You're literally,
for the sake of argument,
the very person you've just told me you want to avoid.
What race is Hispanic? Is that a race?
Well, what do you think it is?
Oh, I agree. Hispanic is not a race. Hispanic is not a race. I think it's more an ethnic. Well, let's see what he says. I'm curious to hear about this point of view.
I'm asking you, what race is Hispanic?
Hispanic, of course, it's a race. It's called Hispanic.
It's a mix between two races. It's a mix between indigenous Americans and Europeans.
Though, is it? It's not white.
Well, apparently you're more of a racial purist than me. You got like
Not
a
really. You just keep saying you only want to live in a
of.
white neighborhood, but you're literally from a mixed race background yourself. You've literally got Mexican blood.
I know, and I live in a non-white neighborhood too. I'm trying to get out of here though, but I'm trying to get out. But here's the thing.
Do you have any non-white? Do you have any non-white friends? Genuine question.
Most of my friends are non-white. Most of my friends are not, and non-white people love my show.
How many are black?
The honesty.
How many of your friends are black?
Who cares, bro? We're really gonna do the. I got black friends too, bro. I got all my friends are black. Like, bro, who cares? Does that matter, Piers? Does that really matter? Jesus Christ.
Many of them, like at least a dozen.
Wow.
Ye being one who you know, Sneeko being another who you also know.
Yeah. So how do they feel when you say you just want to be away from any black people, walk away from them?
Well, you know what Ye told me? I'll tell you verbatim what he said, that it doesn't come from a place of, and you use the word aversion. That's what he said, that it doesn't.
Oh, what happened? Oh, dang. Bruh. They censored it, bro. I wish I could have watched this live. Dang it. What did Kanye say? Kanye probably said something like, don't be around them niggas. I don't want to be around them niggas too. They did nothing for me. Kanye, I could hear Kanye saying something like that. Dang it. Dang it.
Well, you know what Ye told me? I'll tell you verbatim what he said, that it doesn't come from a place of, and you use the word aversion. That's the first thing I'll actually dispute.
Okay.
It's not an aversion on the basis of skin color, because that would seem to suggest it's like a stubborn, irrational bigotry. I don't consider myself a bigot. I consider myself a racial realist. I'm realistic about how the races are, and I speak provocatively about it. And I speak provocatively about our tribalistic instincts and tendencies as human beings. And I'm not a liberal ideologue that says that over time and with enough education, we're all going to see this great brotherhood where we're colorblind and everybody's the same. You know, I don't think that's ever going away. I think that race is real. It's not just skin deep. It matters to us and it matters to each other. And black people know that, and Hispanics know that, and Asians know that, and people like me that have partial Mexican ancestry, we know that too. And I think on that basis, we can have mutual respect and understanding, not aversion based on skin color.
The reason I use the word aversion is you literally said that you should walk the other way if you see black people. That is an aversion to black people based on their skin color.
No, that's called economy of information. That's economy of information. That's safety. And I said in the same monologue, if you watch it, it's like, I feel sorry. The problem is you clip the 10 seconds. I don't know if you watched the whole show, but in that monologue, I said, most black people are not violent or criminals. I said, and it's unfortunate that we're going to offend them when we turn and walk the other way. I said, but the problem is we don't know. We can't tell. And someone like Irina Zarutska, she sat down in front of a black man with her headphones in and wasn't paying attention because she was being a good liberal and said, I'm not uncomfortable by this. I'm progressive. Then she got stabbed in the neck. And I said, it's unfortunate that you would have to sit behind the black man to be safe. And if he's not violent or schizophrenic, he might be offended. Said, but I would rather offend him than die.
How many deranged white men have committed atrocious acts of murder in the last 10 years in America?
Proportionally far fewer.
How is Nick gonna know that information off the top of his head, bro? Like, Piers, and this is the part that pisses me off too. You got fact checkers, you got people in the background ready to debate and all this stuff. Nick Fuentes is coming by himself with his own knowledge, because Nick is very intelligent, and you want to come out here and try to like, oh, actually, the actual number is this. Oh. And Nick was like, bruh, you just Googled that. Did you chat GPT that as well? Or did you use Grok? Grok is a lot more realistic to the world as well.
Fewer.
How many? Do you know how many?
You have a research team. You pull it up.
I mean, you're very big on. You're obviously extremely exercised by that one story, which was horrific for the record. Absolutely horrific. and should never have happened. The person who perpetrated that evil act had a string of previous offenses and should have been picked up more, and it should have been amplified more. I completely concur with all of that. But I just suspect you have no idea how many white people have committed similar crimes, do you?
No, because I know it's far fewer from
Okay.
experience.
Okay.
Because it's like you said. Well, and hang on, and I would add to that, you know, Irina Zarutska wasn't the first one. That was also after Austin Metcalf was killed in Texas.
Sure.
After
But
Carmelo
how many
Anthony
times has it
stabbed
been
him in the neck.
perpetrated by white people?
Well, hang on. Let me finish my point.
But you're
And then not
implying that
only
white
did-
people don't do this. And my point to you, Nick
Okay.
Fuentes,
No, he
is
didn't.
of course,
Oh, I never said white people don't do it.
deranged white people commit heinous acts. But you don't either
No
know.
disagreement.
You neither know nor care, or maybe both. Maybe you do know but don't care. You only seem to be focused on black people who commit crimes. And again, if you hadn't prefaced the whole debate about racism by openly conceding you are a racist, I could read other connotations into what you've been saying. But once you've said, I'm a racist, and then you only talk about black crime, I think people can watch this and they can say, yeah, he's a racist. And everything that he says about crime is driven through the prism of being a racist who judges people according to their skin color.
Well, it's funny because it's quite on the contrary. And I said this in a similar monologue. You know, the problem is not that I wake up and I walk down the street and I see someone that doesn't look like me and it makes me angry. The problem is there's a pattern of behavior, which we've all seen. Blacks in America have become narcissistic, and they become narcissistic because they've been told they're victims of racism. They're victims of slavery. They've been told really there's no accountability. If they're rude, if they're inconsiderate, if they're criminal, they are told that they have no agency for their actions. They're being told, if you act in this way, it's because the white man made you that way. It's because the system's rigged against you. And so we have been telling black people this for a generation, and now there's no rules. Now they go, and what we hate to see as decent people, not even as white people, but decent people, even black people too, what we hate to see is rudeness, obnoxiousness, inconsideration, criminality, violence. And that's that pattern of behavior that we see all over social media, on
so
the
just to
body
be clear,
cam footage,
you don't like black people who play the victim and are rude. Is that your position?
I don't like that pattern of behavior.
And who are narcissists?
Well, I'm on X real quick. I just wanted to know what exactly Kanye said. Oh wow! Best part was. Wait. Hold on. Let me see if I have the.
Non-white friends. Genuine question.
Any of them, like at least a dozen. Wow. Ye being, well, you know what Ye told me? I'll tell you verbatim what he said. He said, so you use the N-word. I said, yeah. He goes, well, when niggas are being niggas. I said, so true. That's so true. So they feel like they're
What does that mean? What does that mean?
It means that even black people know how black people can behave. Even black people understand it. And they know that it doesn't come from a place of, and you use the word aversion.
Okay. Now, I needed closure to know what Kanye West said. Shout out to Kanye.
I see where this is going.
Yeah, you ahead of me. Narcissists.
I don't like that pattern of behavior.
And who are narcissists?
I see where this is going.
Yeah, you ahead of me.
Turn this around on me.
You're ahead of me, aren't you? Because when I said, what black friends have you got? You said,
I am kind of black, aren't I?
No, not that. You said, I'm not saying you. I'm just saying your choice of black friend is Ye, who is arguably the #1 black victimhood narcissist in America. Do you understand the problem? So he's your friend. He's one of the very few black people you want to be associated with, but he's the epitome of what you just.
How the hell is Kanye West a black victimhood mindset guy when he was literally White Lives Matter with Candace Owens? When he literally said that George Bush is a racist? When he literally supported Trump twice and got someone like Nick Fuentes like to go with him to meet Trump, and has a whole bunch of people who are Jewish that help his business run, who literally doesn't like. Wow, Piers, you really are trying here. Wow, that's crazy, man. This is sad.
Said you abhor about narcissistic black people.
I disagree. I disagree with you, and I'll tell you why. Because Ye, if you've ever met him in real life,
I have, yeah.
Okay, well then you know he's nothing but polite, considerate.
Actually, he was very rude to me the last 2 times I interviewed him. He's a supreme, he's a supreme narcissist, and he's also.
You keep interrupting me. You're very rude. Are you black?
Because
you're being very rude by interrupting me right now.
To you,
I'm giving you a hard time, but I
okay.
do want to finish my point. I do want to finish my point about Ye. He is a guy who, when I was with him, wanted to make sure that everybody was heard. Everybody felt included. He's actually a very soft-spoken guy, very polite. And by the way, not violent. When you look at all the rappers that are in the music game, many of them, especially from Chicago, drill rap, they're talking about killing people, shooting people, they gangbang. He notably, if you know about him, he got his start because he was a nerd. He wore a backpack and a polo.
He's an anime
and he
fan.
Wasn't a gangbanger. He rapped about his feelings and girls and his dreams.
Bro, Kanye West is such a, like... I know people hate on Kanye, whatever, but Kanye, like, if you watch the documentary Genius on Netflix, like, he was his fascination for art. He'd be talking about Picasso. He'd be thinking about all these revolutions, Steve Jobs, and putting himself in that same category. You know, the visionaries of the world that changed the world forever. Elon Musk. He's someone that idolizes people in general, and he cares about people very well, very much so. And I hope to meet Kanye one day. But if you see him upbringing, he was never about like, yo, they're being gangster, guns, violence, and traffic, selling drugs. That was never his thing. And that's I think partly why I love his music, because he's not someone that condones violence really. I know people want to talk about the DEFCON 2 thing that he said a few years ago, but whatever. But Kanye West is my favorite artist of all time. I have a lot of love for Kanye, and whenever you see his concerts, it's not like a concert. It's like an experience. It's a presentation of amazing music that he does, and yeah, I love it.
And his ambitions. So no, and by the way, he would tell me all the time, he doesn't even feel black. They make him feel not black because he doesn't do those things, because he's soft-spoken, because he's artistic, because he's a bit of a nerd or likes fashion. So I would disagree. He's actually not like that at all.
Okay.
We're talking
he's also a Hitler-loving anti-Semite. And we're going to take a little commercial break here, and we're going to come back and talk about anti-Semitism and your views about Jewish people, and indeed what Ye said about the same subject matter. Angel Studios are a lot more of COVID-19.
This interview is amazing. I love this. This is the closest thing that Nick Fuentes will ever have to addressing the legacy media. I want him to debate Ben Shapiro so badly, but Ben will never do it. If Charlie Kirk was still alive, I would have loved to see Nick and Charlie have a nice debate too.